Well, let's go to Tom Harwood, GBNews political correspondent. You are down at Westminster, Tom. What have you been doing today for us? What have you seen? What have been the highlights of today?
Yes, well, after 3 days of reporting on the queue from the south bank of the Thames, I've now made my way across to the north bank of the Thames, to this side of the Palace of Westminster, and we've been exploring exactly what is going on with the politics of all of this, what's to come in the next few weeks in what has been the most extraordinary start to a premiership that I think anyone has really seen for quite some time. Let's not forget, it was only last week that Liz Truss became Prime Minister, when Elizabeth II was still, many people thought, soundly on the throne. Thursday was that big energy announcement freezing the energy bills for people and businesses across the country, and only a matter of hours later the world turned upside down. The event that everyone had dreaded, but I suppose people must have thought inevitable at some stage, the very sad death of Her late Majesty the Queen. Now that has turned what was supposed to be a very rapid set of announcements for this new government, for this new Prime Minister. That's turned that on its head. We've only had one such announcement so far, that energy bill freeze, and all of this big plan, the grid, as they call it in Number 10, trying to control the news agenda, saying this is going to be what we're talking about today, this is what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, policy after policy, looking like the government is busy. That has all been paused, of course. What we're seeing this weekend is world leaders coming to London. Some have already started arriving. We're seeing some informal meetings in Downing Street tomorrow. And then, of course, the big event, the event that will be watched by billions around the world in Westminster Abbey tomorrow, the funeral of Her late Majesty. But the politics doesn't stop. Parliament, although on pause at the moment, returns in the middle of next week. First, for members of Parliament to swear their new oaths, to swear or affirm, I should say, if they're irreligious, their new oaths to the King. And then we're expecting potentially a mini budget, a fiscal statement towards the end of next week as well, getting that agenda for government back on the rails. Before that, however, UNGA, the UN General Assembly meeting in New York. The Prime Minister Liz Truss is expected to go to New York in the middle of next week to attend that with many of the same world leaders who will have been in London just a couple of days beforehand. It has been announced as well that there will be a formal bilateral meeting between the President of the United States and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom expected on Wednesday in New York. Then, of course, that mini budget towards the end of the week, and then Labour Party conference at the weekend and the start of the next week, followed by the Conservative Party conference the week after that. Politics is getting busy, and it also is getting so busy because there's only been a very few number of sitting days of Parliament since the summer recess. It looks like this conference recess will be curtailed, drawn back by a week, so that after Conservative Party conference, instead of getting an extra week off for MPs to sun themselves on a beach somewhere, or they would insist going back and doing vital constituency work. Well, instead of that extra holiday, it looks like conference recess will be curtailed, so it will only last 2 weeks, and some more business of the House can take place in that second week in October.